In the early 20th century, South Africa was a land divided, not by rivers, not by mountains, but by race. A system called apartheid, meaning apartness, ruled the nation. It was legalized racial segregation. Black South Africans, the true majority, were treated as strangers in their own land. They could not vote, they could not own land freely. They needed passes to move from place to place. They were forced into poor schools, poor hospitals, and poor communities, while the white minority controlled power, wealth, and opportunity. This injustice planted the seeds of resistance, and from those seeds rose a young man named Nelson Mandela, born in 1918 in the village of Mvezo. Mandela was raised with the values of leadership, dignity, and African pride. He studied law in Johannesburg, becoming one of the first black lawyers in South Africa. Every day, he saw the pain of his people in courtrooms, families displaced, workers abused, voices silenced. Mandela realized freedom would not be given, it would have to be fought for it. He joined the African National Congress, ANC, a movement formed to resist white minority rule. At first, Mandela believed in peaceful protest. He organized marches, strikes, and acts of civil disobedience. One major campaign was the Defiance Campaign of 1952, where thousands deliberately broke apartheid laws, entering whites-only areas and refusing unjust restrictions. But the government responded with brutality. Protesters were beaten, arrested, killed. Then came a turning point, 1960, the Sharpeville Massacre. Thousands of unarmed black protesters gathered against pass laws. Police opened fire. 69 people were killed. Many were shot in the back while fleeing. The world was shocked for Mandela. This moment changed everything. Peaceful resistance alone, he believed, was no longer enough. So in 1961, Mandela helped form Umkhonto we Sizwe, meaning Spear of the Nation. Its mission was sabotage, targeting government buildings, was the armed wing of the ANC. Their power stations and infrastructure, not civilians. Mandela wanted to pressure the regime without causing innocent bloodshed, but the apartheid government labelled him a terrorist. He went underground, moving secretly, earning the nickname. Yet freedom fighters are always hunted. In 1962, Mandela was captured and arrested. He was charged with sabotage and conspiracy to overthrow the government. His trial, the Rivonia trial, became historic, facing the death penalty. Mandela stood in court, calm but unbroken, and he spoke words that would echo across history. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I cherish the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Instead of execution, Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was sent to Robben Island, a brutal prison off Cape Town's coast. There, prisoners were forced into hard labour, breaking limestone rocks under the burning sun. Mandela slept on a thin mat on a cold floor. He was allowed one letter every 6 months, one visit per year, even in prison. Apartheid tried to break his spirit, but something extraordinary happened. Prison did not weaken Mandela. It strengthened him. He studied, he wrote. Secretly, he mentored younger prisoners. Robben Island became known as the University of Freedom. Mandela transformed suffering into leadership. Meanwhile, outside prison walls, the struggle intensified. The causes of South Africa's resistance were clear: land dispossession, racial segregation, économique exploitation, brutality, political exclusion, cultural oppression. Black South Africans were tired of living as second-class citizens. Youth movements rose. Workers organized strikes. Communities rebelled. One major uprising was the Soweto Uprising of 1976. Students protested being forced to learn in Afrikaans, the language of their oppressors. Police opened fire on children. Images of young Hector Peterson's fluffy shocked the world. Global outrage exploded. International pressure mounted. Countries imposed economic sanctions on South Africa. Sports teams were banned. Businesses withdrew. The apartheid regime grew. Isolated, and Mandela, still in prison, became the global face of resistance. Free Nelson Mandela became a worldwide chant. Concerts, protests, and campaigns demanded his release. After 27 years behind bars, change was unavoidable. By the late 1980s, South Africa was on the brink of civil war, was rising. The government realized apartheid could not survive. The economy was collapsing. Violence. In 1990, President F.W. de Klerk made a historic decision. Nelson Mandela would be released. February 11, 1990. Mandela walked out of Victor Verster prison, hand in hand with his wife Winnie. After nearly 3 decades, he was free. But he did not call for revenge. He called for peace. Mandela entered negotiations with the government to end apartheid. Talks were tense. Violence still erupted. But Mandela insisted on reconciliation over retaliation. Finally, apartheid laws were dismantled, and in 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election, where all races could vote. Millions lined up for hours, some for the first time in their lives. The result was historic. Nelson Mandela was elected South Africa's first black president. A prisoner became a president. A freedom fighter became a unifier. Mandela chose forgiveness instead of vengeance. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, allowing victims and perpetrators to speak, confess, and heal. His leadership prevented civil war and guided South Africa into a new era. The struggle had been long. The causes were rooted in injustice. The price was paid in blood, prison, and sacrifice. But freedom was won. Nelson Mandela's journey proved one powerful truth: that even behind prison walls, the human spirit can remain free, and that one man's sacrifice can liberate a nation.